Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're keeping well. Sorry I wasn't here last week. I was up in Birmingham at an event at the Implementer Bootcamp Entrepreneur Circle event up in Birmingham last week. So it was a brilliant week, but I was so kind of too busy kind of learning about all the different types of social media and learning about TikTok, which was an interesting one. But yeah, doing lots of stuff on that. I completely forgot to log in and say hello to you all. So yeah, sorry for that. This week, yeah, it's been a busy old week. We've had our month-end deadlines here at Accounting for Everything, so that's been a busy one. And now we are kind of in the next quarter, which is it's all good fun up to the VAT deadline, which is this Friday. So yeah, busy. But yeah, nothing really to update you all on today, but some exciting stuff. We do have a guest joining us today. So I've got Mark from PSP Group. I'm just going to put him on there now. There we go. Hello, Mark.
Hello, James, and hello, everyone.
Very well. Thank you for joining us, obviously. For us, obviously, as a startup business 7 years ago, one of the first things I knew I had to get was insurance. And I know that I didn't really know what I needed to get. And I was talking to many startups now still. Insurance is one of those things where I don't think they really know and understand. So it's great that you joined us today. Thank you.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it.
So, I mean, I think obviously we talked about briefly the sort of thing that you're going to be covering. So, yeah, well, you just wanted to kind of crack on it. And obviously, if anybody's got any questions that's watching, please do put a comment on whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. They should pop up here. You might have to authorize so we see who it is, but we'll still see the questions as they pop up. So, yeah, take it away, Mark. Thank you.
Yep. So, I'm Mark Harris from PSP Group, and we're a regional broker based in the Southwest. So, we work predominantly with local businesses. We like to basically get out and see people and make contact so that we can actually talk to them, get an understanding of their business, what they're doing, what their plans are, and then talk through sort of the types of insurance cover which similar companies might have or do have, and sort of partly educate, partly explain, and then provide quotes and options for that insurance cover. So there's a few basic things that I want to go through first of all, and then I want to go into detail in something called personal accident towards the end. So starting off, basically insurance is just a way of trying to protect your business and your assets from circumstances which could cause a financial loss to you. The main covers which any sort of new or existing company is going to need is property insurance for any equipment they've got, any computers, any laptops, any tools, anything which is physical, which they're using to carry out their business on a day-to-day basis. And that will cover things for accidental damage. It will cover stuff fire, theft, lightning, explosion, things like that as well. For anyone that does have sort of insurance, I would say just go away, have a look, just double check if you've got any portable equipment, you've got any cameras, you've got any laptops which you take out and about with you, make sure that they're covered on an all-risk basis. So that basically means that they're covered while they're away from your premises. Most policies will include it as an add-on, so as an extension. So you specify, right, we've got £1,000 worth of laptops that we could take anywhere. Or it might be in the wording, it says content sum insured with 25% covered while they're taken away. So if you've got £5,000 worth of contents, it will cover 20 or 25% of that when it's taken away from your main premises. Moving on, the other sort of areas which people will be looking at is employer's liability and public liability. Now, in essence, basically, public liability covers your business should a third party, somebody else which isn't involved in your business, gets hurt, injured, or their property gets damaged as a result of the work that you're doing. So if you're working on a contract site and you basically cause an accident which hurts or somebody else, the public liability will go in to sort of, one, defend you legally if a claim gets made against you, and then also if the claim's valid, make an awards payment to that individual. And it's the same with property. So if you're working and you do something which damages or hurts somebody else, that will be picked up under the public liability section. And if you're in a trade, most places they won't let you on site unless you have public liability. If you're going to, if you organise an event, you're hiring out rooms, again, they'll generally ask if you've got any public liability, so that if you damage anything while you're there, there's insurance cover in place. The next one I want to talk about is employer's liability. Employer's liability is one of only two insurance covers which are a legal requirement. So employer's liability is a legal requirement if you have any employees. The only other one is motor insurance. If you drive a motor vehicle, you have to have motor insurance for that vehicle. Both of them, that's a legal requirement. And you can be criminally prosecuted if you do not have either of those covers in place. So employer's liability is there basically to protect your employees. So if your employees carrying out their day-to-day work and they're hurt or injured as a result of that work, they could potentially put in a claim against you, saying, well, I hurt myself doing something while I was at work, and look to claim compensation. The employer's liability policy will firstly do investigation costs. It will then pay any legal fees, and if an award is paid, it will pay out an awards amount to that individual. So I think, just thinking of an example, we've had a client a few years ago. They had somebody which was seriously burnt in a fire. And they were taken to hospital. They suffered significant burns all over their body. And after about 18 months, they actually received an award payment for that injury from the work they were undertaking. Now, an employer's liability claim or cover is subject to an individual making a claim against you. So they need to go through the legal proceedings. Which isn't always nice for employers or employees to have to deal with, because nobody likes it when an employee is hurt, and a lot of people will feel personally responsible for it. It can also take quite a long time for an employer's liability claim to play out, because it goes through the court process, and it also can take time to find out what is the actual impact of the injuries that they've suffered. That's where something that I'd like to go in a bit more detail about can potentially come in and protect a lot of businesses.
Yeah, coming quickly. If you are a limited company and it's only directors, do you recommend still having employers' liability? I suppose it's only if they want to sue their own company.
If there's more than one director, so if you've got two directors in the company, again, you have to have employers' liability cover. If it's one sole director, you don't legally have to have it, but as soon as you get two directors in the business which are working in the business, so if you've got a shareholding director which is not involved in it at all and one working, that's completely different to if you've basically got sort of two working directors in the business. You do need to get employers' liability cover in place.
Brilliant. Thank you. That answers that one. Cheers.
Okay. So group accident insurance will basically, if an employee is hurt or injured, either at work, or you can get a 24/7 basis. So if they're injured outside of work through an accident, it will basically provide cover for them. So it will start picking up if they're off work for a number of weeks, usually after either a 7 or 14-day period. It will start paying an amount of money towards their wages, so that if they're on statutory pay, it can boost up their wages to a larger amount. So they'll get a weekly amount payment. If they suffer a loss of a limb or loss of hearing or loss of eye, they'll get a lump sum payment. And these policies start reacting straight away. So as soon as somebody's hurt or injured, you can notify the insurer and payments will start being made fairly promptly. Whereas an employer's liability policy, it can take months before there's anything. So in the case of the person that I was talking about that had severe burns, they got moved to Bristol, and they were in Bristol for 2 months, and their family were regularly going up and visiting. So a group personal or a decent group personal accident policy will actually cover the travel expenses and any overnight accommodation for family members to go and visit them. It will also pick up things like childcare costs. So if they've got children that need looking after, it will also cover some of the costs for that. It will cover domestic help once they come out of hospital and once they're back home. If they've got something like a broken leg, so they're not hospitalised, but they can't travel easily, it will help cover travel expenses to and from hospital appointments. And it will also, in extreme cases where people need adaptations, cover costs towards adapting a home or covering a workplace. And also some of the better group personal accident policies as well. If you've got a member of staff which cannot or won't be able to return to work, it will also provide some cover for recruitment costs to the business. So what I would say is a group personal accident policy will help you as an employer not only look after your staff, but also look after them when they're at a point where they're most vulnerable, they're struggling, they're ill, and it's basically a security blanket there that you can use to protect them, because the employees that you have are generally people which you get on well with, you care for. So if something happens to them, you
want the best for them.
You want the best for them, and you want to look after them.
On regards, obviously, these policies, I mean, does it depend on the nature of the industry? Does the price of the premium? I imagine if it's high risk.
Yeah, it does change. Well, the premium will change dependent on the industry. So if somebody's working manually on a construction site, the cost of that is more than if somebody's doing an office-based job. Like I said, quite a lot of them do 24/7 cover, so they're covering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if somebody, I've had examples in the past where somebody's basically broken their leg while they were cycling, and they got a small amount of small payment. They got their wages sort of paid for, or money towards their wages for about 5 or 6 weeks while they were recovering, and it also helped the costs of getting to and from hospital for appointments. So it's basically there to help and assist. You will pay more if somebody's doing a manual job compared to somebody that's doing a clerical job. And obviously some businesses, they'll have a mixture of clerical and manual staff, so they'll just need to know numbers and potential maximum wages paid to differentiate between the two. There are quite a lot of little tradesman policies which will also include some cover for personal accident. So if you're a tradesman, it's something I would highly recommend, but I would say look at what the limits are, because some of them, if you're hurt or injured, that they may only pay out something like £150 a week, which might not be enough to actually cover your ongoing expenses. So that is something to look at and consider as well. If you do have a policy in place, how much is it going to pay, and what additional benefits does it have around it?
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Another question that's come in is, obviously, it's easy enough to go online and have a look at just policies online, obviously, or they could use someone like yourself as a broker. What kind of benefits are there going through and using a broker?
Okay. If you go online and put the information in there, there's no guarantee what you ask for is what the insurers will actually provide a quote for. They will say, right, here's a quote. Okay, you need to go through all of the information, you need to go through the policy word, and you need to go through that to identify whether it meets the requirements that you've asked for. So firstly, you need to know what you want. Secondly, you need to be able to sit through and sift through that information and work out, well, is it actually providing what I've asked for? And then you need to go away and go, well, actually, yeah, I'll take that. With a broker, you sit down, you talk about, right, this is what we're doing. You can talk to somebody that can tell you, actually, okay, you want this. However, have you thought about this item and this item and this item as well? They will then go away. They'll obtain a number of quotes, and they'll come back to you and say, right, based on what we've talked about, we've got these policies which will actually cover what we've talked about and discussed. I've got another one here which will cover all of them bar this aspect. So, or there's a restriction there, or there's a condition where something has to happen. So if it was a personal accident policy, if it's restricted to work time, or if it's 24/7, it's the broker's responsibility to point that out to you. And then if there's any changes during the year, you can speak to your broker and they'll get those changes amended. And also, if there's a claim, most brokers, not all brokers, but most brokers will have a claims team which deal with claims on a day-to-day basis that can basically pick up, push, and press through a claim on your behalf. You'll still need to submit the information, but they will do the chasing. They'll be the ones that basically sit there on the phone waiting for a response from insurers. They're the ones that can basically challenge an insurer and say, well, actually, what you're doing is wrong or too slow, and they can move the process along. So basically, you're accessing advice, somebody sort of pointing out what your requirements are, and also anything which is or isn't included in that cover, and then support should there be a claim.
That's brilliant. Obviously, you mentioned that employer's liability is the one that's legally required.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to ask this, but obviously, people that are taking huge risks by not getting insurance, suppose people that drive around illegally without insurance for their own, like driving in a car. But I mean, are you aware? Is there an issue with people not getting insurance that are sufficient? And that's probably more the question. Sufficient insurance for their businesses.
With regards to say something like employer's liability, I don't think I've ever seen a policy which doesn't offer at least 10 million. Now, the legal requirement is to have 5 million. And if you've got an employer's liability policy, 99 times out of 100, and like I say, I've never seen one, it will be on a 10 million limit. But then you need to work out how many employees you've got in one area to work that out. There is, particularly with inflationary costs at the moment, there is a situation where at times people are probably a little bit light on their property insurance, where if they actually went away and actually sat down and worked out what they're actually the value to get everything replaced as new is, they might actually be surprised on what the sum insurance
rebuild costs have rocketed.
Rebuild costs, have rocketed, because obviously the manual costs have gone up, the material costs have gone up, and also if you've got rebuilds, you've also got to deal with taking away the existing. Well, if it needs rebuilding from the ground up, sort of taking away everything and then going through the process as well.
So I guess it's incredibly important that people do kind of review their policies annually and make sure they are getting that sufficient cover.
Most policies will include some index linking to go up, but people should sort of be looking at, well, because it's quite easy to get, we've picked up 2 or 3 new laptops which are a lot higher value than what we had before. We've got some new equipment or some new tools, and they're kind of drip fed in during the year. But they don't actually take stock. They just sort of like, well, that's what the sum insured was last year. It's gone up 10% with inflation, but they've not actually considered all of the other little things which have drip fed in, which could affect that sum insured.
Brilliant. If anybody, obviously, hopefully there's been some people watch this and I need to think about that. Obviously, you are a broker at PSP Group. How can people get in contact with you?
They can get in contact by picking up the phone or sending an email through. So my email address is mark.harris@pspgroup.co, and it is bizarre, it is .co. They can find me on LinkedIn, or they can just give me a call, or if they know yourself, they can speak to you.
If anybody wants, again, if
over.
yeah, feel free if anybody wants to message me or the Facebook group, LinkedIn, or a message on YouTube. Yeah, please do, and I'll share those details with you. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Mark. It's been really useful and kind of hopefully is kind of a few questions that came through. So, and obviously these are recorded. There were people watching this back now, so there might be a few other questions that come through at a later date. But I really appreciate you coming in and giving that summary. It was brilliant.
No.
I'll just switch off the camera and I'll just say bye. But yeah, thank you again, Mark.
Thanks.
So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Again, thanks again to Mark. We'll be back next Monday. No, it won't be Monday. It'll be next Tuesday at 2 p.m. And oh god, I can't get this right. I'll cut this bit out at the end. But yeah, next Tuesday at 1 p.m. I'll be back doing a quick summary, really, of what we've been up to. I want to have a quick run through about talk about the implementer and got a fantastic Entrepreneur Circle event we did last week, and also with our EC local meeting last Thursday as well, and talk about pricing strategies. So I'll be doing a few highlights from that as well. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Have a great week, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Bye for now.